Hello everyone, welcome to Direct Joy. My name's Cherie. I am a psychotherapeutic counsellor, a psychologist, a psychotherapist, a counsellor, a mum, a fiance, a chicken owner, a dog owner, a cat owner. And this is Direct Joy. So we are here today to talk about being accepted and not being accepted, because that's the other side of it. Let's give you a bit of a brief introduction, because I know there's a few people watching today for the first time. So Direct Joy is something I came up with at the beginning of the year, just as lockdown was finishing, to bring some of the information that I know about psychology and applying psychotherapy in the world to everyone, really. The stuff that we don't hear about mental health and emotional well-being, the stuff that is a bit harder to access, that us professionals seem to know about, that kind of gets caught in the systems and gets caught up in the private work. And I really found that it was important to kind of get these messages out more. And I love to talk, so sharing that with my voice and showing up online live felt really important to me, and still does. So asking for your questions about mental health, emotional well-being, and coming from a psychologist and a psychotherapist point of view is really, really important to me. Been a bit quiet over the last couple of weeks, mainly due to technology issues. So there's been a lot bumbling around. There's been a lot of questions that have come up in the ethers of, what I hear spoken about. So let's start where we're at. Please let me know if you have any questions. Please let me know if this brings anything up for you. Let's start a conversation, because if we start a conversation, this is what Direct Joy is about, is directly starting conversations to bring about the things that are difficult, that, I work in the dark, shadowy places to bring about more light, to bring about more hope, to bring about the conversations that we don't necessarily have, and put that into the language of today's society and the challenges that we face in our families, in our workplaces, in our relationships, in our parenting, just in our bodies, in our heads, in our hearts, with our friends, everyone. And bringing about shining light and shining love, respecting who we are as humans with each other, is so important. And and this Direct Joy especially really has roots of kind of what I say this a lot, but what Direct Joy is about: being accepted. What is it like when you feel accepted? What's it like to feel accepted, respected, overjoyed, part of, embraced, with, alongside, that camaraderie? What's it like to be truly united with common interest and fun and joy and peace and celebration, and alongside each other, right? Living life in all of its glories, but also all of its, sticky stuff, to still be alongside. We see it so much in things like football teams and sports teams and groups of any kind, hobbies, families, class uniting, religions, sports. What is really going on there? That feeling of acceptance, that feeling of we're together. We hear it on the terraces so much, don't we, at football games, and we see it in big events where people are cheering on their favourite band and singing along to their songs. We see it in churches when we stand up and worship. We see it in all kinds of faith where there is a common ground, where there is a common group of people sharing and being together. And being attached to those groups, to those organisations, to those hobbies gives us identity. we have identity from that. There is calls to say, I do it at the beginning of Direct Joy. I'm a member, I'm a psychologist, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a mum, all these labels, right? But they give me identity, and they show that I'm accepted. They show that I'm a good girl. There's labels that I miss out here deliberately, because what will people think of me? How will people judge me? Can I still remain non-judgmental and autonomous in my work? What will people think of me? Will I be truly accepted, respected? Will they think differently of me? And, we have social media that cracks light open on people and exposes them. And, what's that like? What does that bring up? That fear, that betrayal, rejection, abandonment, the difference, the fact that I might be lacking, the fact that I might be exposed, I might not belong. These are all the dark edges. These are all the thresholds of fear. And so what we find, there is that primitive need to stay in the group. And what does that mean then? Do we then maybe do something that maybe isn't necessarily in integrity to what we believe, or in truth to what we believe, even about that thing, right? And I remember when I used to be on the netball court, and being in defence, it was okay at one point to, and I don't know actually with the netball rules now, but moving the ball, going off court and not landing but pushing the ball back on, because you're not on court, even though the ball may be offside and off court. Is that okay? Is that not okay? And what the rules say, does it matter? Because what do you believe about that? And I remember the 12, 13-year-old in me going, well, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. And is it wrong because I couldn't do it because I was a shorter defender? Or is it wrong because actually it broke the rules and I was really diligent about the rules? Or is it wrong just because it's wrong? And how that's one example. We do it with larger things, What is it we're okay to say, actually, I believe this is my truth. This is where I'm aligned with. This is what's right for me. And how actually sometimes the fear of being rejected, the fear of then lacking and not being part of that group or being abandoned really kicks in. It really kicks in. And it can take us to a place of a really deep exploration of who we are and whether we belong. And do we belong in that group? Do we have a splinter group? Do we have a different gang? Do we have a different tribe? Do we belong? And what does that mean for our identity? What does that mean for our attachment styles? What does that mean if you're talking about your family? What does that mean if you're talking about your church? What does that mean if you're talking about a sport that you've played forever? What does that mean if you're talking about your career, your job? What does that mean if you're talking about your parenting style to someone who may be very different in their beliefs? And how do we make these connections with others? How do we make a connection within ourselves? What are the patterns that come about through that? And how we meander through the world, how we flow through the world, both as a primitive being of wanting belonging, needing belonging, seeking, searching, and holding tight, yet needing to hold loose, because actually there's some fear here, or there may be some self-sabotage. It can be an awful lot, and this is why psychotherapy and the relational side of psychotherapy is so helpful, because it allows you space to really slow down this stuff and think about who you are, where you're at, what that means, and not necessarily just dropping like a hot potato things that are very important to you and always have been, but actually that sense of who we are, what we believe, what is important to us, and we can really stand true and in truth and full alignment with that. And that allows the meander, that allows us to open up the conversations both in our own heart but also in the heart of another, with respect and with love and with celebration. But also some of those really difficult conversations can still be had with celebration, with respect, with grace. You know, being able to say to someone face to face, hey, I'm struggling with the way that you're viewing that. How are you finding that? And we do find that a lot of that is hidden behind social media, is hidden behind, I'm this type of person. And I put that voice on deliberately because actually, what does that mean? And what does it mean to really be in integrity? What does it really mean to say, hey, I'm Cherie and this is the way I show up. Hey, I'm me, being me, and being able to stand there and say, hey, do you know what? I'm saddened by that. Or I'm confused by that. Tell me more. Or I'm intrigued by that. Tell me even more. You know, the most interesting person in the room is the most interested. I think that's C.S. Lewis, but I can't remember. I'm sure someone will tell me. That sense of safety that we get and the sense of shaking that safe zone is quite an interesting one that needs to be worked through. It needs to be processed. It needs space and time and quiet nurturing because it starts from a big place. Wow, this is scary. I could be rejected, abandoned, betrayed. And it goes to a deep place, a deep, quiet place of, okay, who would I be without this? Or if I challenged this? Or if I even challenged myself about this? So what is important? How do I accept myself in this? What do I think of others? And how does this all relate back to my patterns, my ways of relating, my ways of sabotaging, my fears? And how do I notice, align, find truth, and stay true to something in the future of me who I don't even know what is happening yet? It makes me think of something actually I put up on Instagram about from Lisa Bevere about the fact that our future self is usually the one that is what we need to safeguard as opposed to our past. We think a lot about our past. Arguably 75% of the time is in the future. What am I going to eat for dinner? What would happen if I did that? What would in the future? However, emotionally and mentally, from a mental health point of view, we give a lot of attention and informed unconsciously by the past. So that dichotomy, that space in between of being in the present, between what we're giving out for the future and what we're informed by the past, is actually informing who we are going to be. And when we pay attention to who we're going to be, when we observe, when we align, when we get a taste and a texture and a feel of that joy of what we're inviting, even though we might be starting from a place of absolutely being petrified, of not being accepted, of standing in our truth, but hold on tight for the ride. What's that like? Doing that with another in therapy is obviously the thing that I'm an advocate of, because doing that in a safe place, doing that when we're informed by our families, who are our first point of origin of being accepted, rejected, betrayed, abandoned, loved, joyed, celebrated and welcomed, and all of the mix of all of those things to different variations dependent on who we are and our upbringing needs light, love and time, attention, space and honouring. And not everybody has the means and capacity to provide that. Thankfully, UKCP, the United Kingdom of Counselling and Psychotherapists, this week have won the battle to be accepted as Band 7, which is absolutely phenomenal. I worked in the NHS for a long, long time, and that particular training was not recognised. It is now. So isn't it great to be accepted? And that needs... What is it like to both celebrate, to grieve, but to most importantly notice? Notice what happens with being accepted. Notice what happens and work through that, giving ourselves a huge amount of love and respect and then putting that forth in the world. Okay, so always know that there's place at my table for conversation and acceptance. Always, whatever the conversation, my metaphoric symbolic door is always open. DM me, text me. If you live in Bexhill, phone me for a coffee. Let's walk along the seafront. Let's do some ecotherapy. Let's have any conversation. All are welcome, and know that you are welcomed. And that's it for Direct Joy today. I look forward to hearing back from you about anything this brings up for you, good or bad. There's no good or bad. And I look forward to seeing you in the coming weeks once we get some more inspiration of the next Direct Joy. So keep it coming. Lots of love to you all, with grace and with peace and with acceptance.